Good evening, gentlemen. It really is an honor to be here with both of you.
When we look weak, our adversaries are much more willing to test us. They're more brazen in their attacks, and our allies are less willing to
With
trust
all
us.
due respect, that's a bunch of malarkey.
We can do better than this.
I hope I'll get equal time.
Now, here to discuss the VP debate is my all-star panel, who I'm thrilled to welcome. Brown University professor Tricia Rose, our own Governor Jennifer Granholm, host of The War Room, and comedian, radio host of This Week in Blackness, and contributing editor to The Root, Elon James White, one of my favorite New York comics. Thank you all so much for being here with us today.
You bet.
Okay, so let's get into this. Vice President Biden and Paul Ryan engaged in a very confrontational debate last night, as we all know. Biden seems to have stolen the show, for better or worse. Governor, my take on it, and I'll start with you since you debated Joe Biden as Sarah Palin during his rehearsals back in 2008. I think that Joe Biden helped the president more than he harmed Paul Ryan. Is that a fair estimation?
I think that's probably actually very accurate. He did what he had to do, as everybody's been saying today. He did rev up the base. He did punch back when misstatements were made, and that we all wanted to hear that. He did say the 47% let Detroit go bankrupt. He used all of the things that people have been longing to hear a good, resounding, punch back on, and I think that was really important.
I'm surprised to hear, Elon, that the mainstream media is declaring this a draw. Was that your impression watching it?
Well, it depends on how you're looking at this. If you're looking at it from the position of who got basically punched in the face, then no, it's not a draw. But if I'm assuming they're looking at it from the position of what's going to move swing voters, and if that's the case, because last night the whole time I kept asking, this is awesome, is this going to move swing voters? This is amazing. I don't know if this is moving swing voters, and I think that was the whole point of the debates, is to get those people who have not already decided. It's not about the base.
Yes, you're right.
But the CBS poll, which looked at those independent voters, obviously showed a significant advantage for Biden, which was encouraging.
Right. But I mean, the question is, I'm not sure I understand the topics that swing voters are waiting on, right? But I'm not sure what information they're waiting for. I mean, they're such vastly different plans. What really are swing voters waiting for? And how, and if you don't know that, then you don't really know if this debate can really make a
Well,
big
I think
difference.
these things are judged more by tone than by words. And I've said this before in our debate coverage. I do think that, look back at 2008. No one remembers much of what Barack Obama said. They remember that he commanded the stage and screen better than Senator McCain did. So I do think that it's more about the feeling, and this is not to trivialize the 12 people who haven't made up their mind yet in this country, but I think it's more about the feeling that the debater generates. Would you agree?
Oh, totally agree. Totally agree. Biden was a happy warrior. He was out there, he was swinging, he was enjoying it. Ryan looked, he was, I think, a bit nervous, although he handled himself very well. But the fact that Biden enjoyed the battle and was aggressive and was leaning forward and was having a good time, I think that speaks volumes.
Last week I felt that Governor Romney looked like he was having more fun than the president, and I think that's what translates. But I do want to take a look here at one moment where I think Joe Biden clearly commanded the debate. Check this out.
$90 billion in green pork.
I love my friend here. He sent me 2 letters saying, by the way, can you send me some stimulus money for companies here in the state of Wisconsin?
We do that for all constituents who are...
I love that. I love that. This is such a bad program, and he writes me a letter saying, writes the Department of Energy a letter saying, the reason we need this stimulus, it will create growth.
Elon, my take is that Paul Ryan criticizing the stimulus is like the Lindsay Lohan family criticizing cocaine. I don't really know where he gets off making this assertion. Did you enjoy the moment where it was revealed that he had written a letter asking for funds?
Well, that was actually kind of magical because it really made, I believe it's the one moment of the night that Ryan could not even push back a little bit about it. Like, you wrote a letter. You've been condemning this all this time, but you asked for money. It's one of the most hypocritical things possible. But at the same time, watch Biden, and he's laughing. He's pointing. You guys said that it looks like he's having fun. It looks like he's outwardly mocking him, is what it does. And that is why they keep calling it a tie, because looking like you're having fun is one thing. Last week, Romney didn't look like he was mocking the president. He was disagreeing with the president, and he was lying confidently. This week, we had Biden come in there, and he's literally, he almost pointed his finger in the guy's face. I literally said last night that I was happy there was no commercials, because if there were commercials, that would have given time for Joe Biden to get up and go over to Paul Ryan, pee on him to show dominance, because he was literally just dominating him in every shape, form, and fashion.
Yeah, it was like season 2 of Oz. Professor Rose, is that a good point? That did Joe Biden lose points for being too aggressive and too mocking?
I mean, I think it depends on who's watching. I think the base was so anxious about Obama, and people who think that there are progressive values that need more attention and that these issues need to get some airtime were probably excited about it. It might have been upsetting for some swing voters, but I want to go back to that specific clip because there's one detail that's really important. It wasn't just that he wrote on behalf of his constituents, but that he said it was actually going to help create jobs.
Yes.
And I think they really should be forced to address that. That means he's lying in a letter, or he's telling the truth in this letter. And if he's lying, then what's all this talk about principle all the time? Because this is the obsession. They're principled, other people compromise.
But above all else, the one thing we've learned about the Romney-Ryan ticket is that they can't be forced to tell the truth ever. So
Apparently
that's like even if there was nothing but commercials pointing that out, the Romney-Ryan ticket would somehow come up with a twist on it. It's like, listen, we're not going to be held down by these quote-unquote facts by the liberal media, okay? The fact is Obama's done a terrible job, and they'll just go from there. None of this won't work. That's the worst part about this, is we don't know what to do. How do you fight a group that, in fact, isn't based in reality?
And, you know, that speaks to the stimulus as well, because, Governor, we hear a lot about how when President Obama took office, we were losing 750,000 jobs a month. It was actually 800,000 in January of 2009. What I don't hear the administration or the campaign making, the point is that it was the stimulus that stopped this job loss. I keep wondering, when are they going to bring this talking point up?
Well, I do think that Joe Biden did his best last night in doing that. And I do think the point about mocking him, or at least confronting him on his hypocrisy, was one of the most crucial points. But I also think that today, for example, the Bloomberg Economic Index came out saying that the U.S. economy is growing at a surprising rate. There are all these objective indicators that show, in addition to the unemployment rate, the drop in the spending of government over the past 4 years has been unprecedented. There are all these objective facts that they could just come out with a specific answer on and knock them down. But if you do that, they're going to say, Bloomberg, what a raging liberal,
Exactly.
right? They'll start to attack.
Yeah, we'll have to turn to Sean
the
Hannity
studies.
tonight to find out why that
Yes,
growth is
exactly.
bad. Congressman Paul Ryan, I got to give him credit, did seem to get off to a very good start last night on an issue that I think the Democrats have ignored at their peril. Of course, I'm talking about the Benghazi situation, while Biden seemed defensive. Take a look.
Our ambassador in Paris has a Marine detachment guarding him. Shouldn't we have a Marine detachment guarding our ambassador in Benghazi, a place where we knew that there was an al-Qaeda cell with arms? This is becoming more troubling by the day.
And I agree with them. And if I was David Plouffe, I'd be worried about this myself. Do you guys feel that Joe Biden adequately explained the administration's response to the shifting stories of what happened on September 11th in Benghazi?
Well, I'm happy to jump in. I think he made an excellent point, which was he attacked Paul Ryan on the Republicans' hypocrisy on this by cutting embassy security in the budget enormously. Now, that was a very good point. I do think he got a little tripped up on, this was the first question out of the box, which is another reason why I don't understand why the Republicans are criticizing the moderator, because she was tough right out of the box. But the fact that there was testimony that day about them asking for additional security. But the irony is they were asking for additional security in Tripoli and not in Benghazi. And so for Joe Biden to have had that information would have been important, I think.
I agree. Also, I'm a bit surprised that people haven't brought up the fact that we were attacked that day over the Muslim video in Cairo at our embassy. And the confusion seems somewhat warranted when you consider this was happening all over the Arab world.
Yeah, it's certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think also, you know, I mean, I think the other point that Biden made that I thought was interesting was that, you know, Romney came out with a press conference, but, you know, sort of using it politically in a way that was divisive. And I think, again, they've often tried to paint the Obama campaign as being divisive, when in fact they're not. It's the Romney campaign that is often in that business. And that, to me, was something that Biden mentioned that I thought was a kind of a win.
And of course, when a terrorist attack happens under the Bush administration, you can never criticize the commander-in-chief. We know that. Ryan wasn't shy about laying it all out there either, or dropping province names in Afghanistan. He was just very reserved, I guess. But the big question is, who won the 47% battle? Take a look.
Romney's a good man. He cares about 100% of Americans in this country. And with respect to that quote, I think the vice president very well knows that sometimes the words don't come out of your mouth the right way.
But I always say what I mean. If you heard that that little soliloquy on 47%, you think he just made a mistake, then I think I think I got a bridge to sell you.
I was glad that Joe Biden brought up the 47%, but I think that Paul Ryan had a good little dig in there.
No, I didn't think he won that one at all. I think at the end, Biden was afraid to say he's lying, because you can't say he's lying because the preemptive strike was about taking the word lying off the table.
Exactly.
But, you know, there's no question, it made absolutely no sense. Yes, you might misstate, but you consistently defend until you think you can't defend it successfully, and then you change your position. That's called flip-flopping.
And actually, right there is one of the reasons why I believe that Democrats are so anti the whole concept that Ryan won this debate. Because even when he got that dig in on Biden, he just came off so like swarmy almost. Like it's this weird thing, like if anyone should know, he has this way about him when he delivers speeches that I don't know about anyone else. It rubs me the wrong way every time. Every time he starts to stop me, like, shut up, I need you to shut up, because I don't like you're speaking to me in a manner that I feel like you're speaking down. It sounds more condescending than anything, and that is why Democrats were so happy when Joe Biden went in there and just started throwing things at him. Basically, if he could have thrown his own poop, he would have, but he just probably would be bad form.
Yes, I think that would be bad form in most places, although in parts of France you can run on that and win. When we come back, I do want to talk about Martha Raddatz, because our right-wing friends are exploding the Twitterverse today with scorn for her performance as moderator. We'll be right back. Back with our panel discussing last night's VP debate. The right wing is exploding with hatred for Martha Raddatz's performance. Eric Erickson, that noted scholar, says Martha Raddatz was a horrible moderator at Red State, and Drudge called Raddatz the third debater. I think this is a bad strategy for the right, because by placing blame on Martha Raddatz, they're saying our guy lost, rather than saying Paul Ryan won it on the substance, but Joe Biden was flashier, which is what a lot of Democrats tried to get out last week. Am I wrong about this, or is it right for the GOP to believe that Martha Raddatz was biased?
I mean, I think it's exceptionally smart, actually, because what they know that we have not seemed to figure out, and by we, I don't just mean Democrats, I mean progressives beyond the party, that perception and repetition drive memory and influence people's ideas. And so they'll tell you anything. Clearly, it doesn't have to have anything to do with facts. So this is really why we have to be so profoundly invested in a non-corporate, non-top-down dominated media, because that's how their influence has been able to spread so profoundly.
I mean, this just reminds me of them blaming the refs is like them blaming the polls being skewed when they don't like the results there, or them blaming the Bureau of Labor Statistics when the numbers come out in the wrong way. They continue to blame the objective entities that are just referees. It's a smart strategy, but it tells you that they're losing the fight.
And tellingly, while Vice President Biden spoke about a minute and a half more, Congressman Ryan got more words in the word count of the debate. Now, one of the few reflective moments of the night, again thanks to Martha Raddatz, came when Biden and Ryan were asked to explain how their Catholic views impacted their positions. Take a look.
My wife Jana and I went to Mercy Hospital in Janesville, where I was born, for our 7-week ultrasound for our firstborn child. And we saw that heartbeat. Our little baby was in the shape of a bean. And to this day, we have nicknamed our firstborn child, Liza, Bean. Now, I believe that life begins at conception.
Because she looked like Mr. Bean. Well, now, you know, a lot of our friends on the left like to say that they shouldn't ever bring religion into these debates, which I disagree with. I think if candidates are going to use their piety and faith as a chip for the voters, then it's on the table. Would you all agree?
My issue with it, it's not even so much that should it be on the table. It's that it's the problem with our American society today that we allow religion to play such a big role in a thing that's not supposed to have religion be involved in the first place. Like, for me personally, I'm more within the atheist agnostic space. So all of a sudden this comes down, what is your Catholic view, faith, how does this affect you? I'm sitting there going, I don't care, I don't want you, this should not be affecting legislation.
See, I disagree. I think it's the first time we've had two Catholics debating each other on the national ticket. And on the issue of abortion, it's very relevant. And I actually thought that because she framed it in a Catholic way, that it allowed Joe Biden to make the conservative case for supporting Roe versus Wade. Would you agree,
No,
Governor?
you and I agree on this wholeheartedly. I feel like that their Catholic faith does inform, and to suggest that it doesn't inform how they view legislation and stuff, I think is not realistic, in the same way that, your beliefs or lack of beliefs might inform how you might proceed. I think, though, that Joe Biden made, there were two good points that were made. One is that Joe Biden's point about pivoting to saying, what are real Catholic beliefs? But if you look at the 37th chapter of Matthew, when the Lord says, whatsoever you do unto the least of these, so also you do unto me, he effectively made that argument, show me your policy.
Yeah.
That really shows your compassion and really where your faith is. That's number one. And number two, I thought that what was interesting for women, and I'd love to hear you, Dr. Rose, talk about this, but what Paul Ryan couched his language in was saying essentially, it doesn't matter how a woman gets pregnant. The pregnancy exists, and therefore it should be sacrosanct. He said, well, the platform that Romney and I have may allow for exceptions for the life of the mother, but essentially he's saying we will absolutely appoint Supreme Court justices that take away Roe versus Wade.
Right. Well, I mean, if not just feminists, but if women and Democratic and progressive activists don't leap on this and make it very visible about what's at stake, it'll be a nightmare. So, and I think it's a very easy thing to grab. But, I'm a little bit, I'm sort of between our two guests here around this question of how religion should play a role. No doubt it governs our behavior and our attitudes and our beliefs, but we're an incredibly diverse society. You would not know that from the conversation last night. We have Muslims, we have Jews, we have Christians, we have people who are 2 and 3 religions, we have Buddhists.
We got a Mormon now, too.
And to use Christian sort of fundamentalist ideology against science, mind you, right? To claim that your beliefs should govern all of this diversity is appalling. I think we should really fight about that.
Let me show how Joe Biden cut through the recent spin and got to the point on that. Take a look.
The next president will get 1 or 2 Supreme Court nominees. That's how close Roe v. Wade is. Just ask yourself, with Robert Bork being the chief advisor on the court for Mr. Romney, who do you think he's likely to appoint?
Do you think in a night where there were so many sports playoffs games going up against this, where the pundits have suggested more women were watching the debate than men because of this, was that just a slam dunk on the part of Joe Biden?
Absolutely. And I'm surprised that he didn't do more talking about women and how Medicare is important to women and Medicaid is important to women and the Violence Against Women Act and all of the things that Paul Ryan has voted against. But one of the things that I was thinking you were going to show the clip where he said that I would not impose my beliefs on faithful people of other religions, which I think is exactly to the point of he believes, but he's not going to impose. And I think that's important.
And to be clear here, I believe Joe Biden gave a great answer. That was the answer that that was the only part that was like, well, at least he's flat out saying he's not going to use that to actually legislate here. But that's, again, it's more about how our society works as a whole.
I wish that Obama and Romney could tag team out with these guys in the next one, but we look forward to next week's presidential debate. I want to thank my panel, Professor Tricia Rose, Governor Jennifer Granholm, comedian and radio host Elon James White, and when we come back, I will sit down with punk legend John Lydon, a.k.a. Johnny Rotten, from PIL and the Sex Pistols.